and our third question and answer session. So there's no hockey jersey today, no baseball cap today. It's just me. Okay, hope you're doing well. Welcome to Beit Shemesh, Israel, and the Four Corners Project Studio at www.fourcornersproject.org. Hope you're having a great day, and let me give you some stats. It's August 18th. This is our 26th show. In the first 25 shows, we have averaged 1,079 views, meaning 26,859 people have seen our shows since we started, which was around 6 weeks ago, maybe a little longer. Anyway, let's do a little bit of paperwork first and then get into our question and answer. We have 6 questions that have been sent to me by fans and friends, and we will read them. We're going to tell you all that www.fourcornersproject.org is the sponsor of this show, Lenny Solomon Live. And imagine if a small percentage of that 26,000 people made a donation after tonight's show. Imagine that. Well, what would you be getting? You say, I'm going to make a donation to a 501c3, a not-for-profit organization. What does the Four Corners Project do? Answer: informal Jewish education through music and media. And here are the things that are on the agenda for the next year. 1, Exploring Israel, a webisode where we go to different places of Israel, show what happened, and play music at the same time during that same show. So a webisode called Exploring Israel. Number 2, the 40th album called The Big Six will be coming out. Has to be funded. Just letting you know. Number 3, 6 music videos per year. So you will be getting a new music video every 2 months. This year we had the lockdown song. We had a bunch of other things, but the truth is it's all being done on shoestring budgets, and we need funding in order to make them better and better and better. Number 4, Lenny Solomon Live. We're doing 3 shows a week, and we're going to keep doing 3 shows a week. And you don't have to worry about that. But it's all part of the Four Corners Project. Number 5, Jewish Impact Animations. This is one of the newest ideas where we are going to be taking some sort of phrase and animating it. And then after that, we can have a discussion, talk about it. It's for educators, for schools. Very, very important. Number 6, 1 new musical per year. We have a backlog of musicals ready to be written, but, we need funding. Number 7, holiday specials. Yes, we haven't done any of those yet. We did a Ruach session, but we're going to have to do some holiday specials as well. And finally, lesson plans. Very, very important to take all the existing 520 plus Shlock Rock songs and make lesson plans for them so that the schools can use them in their informal Jewish education to support their formal Jewish education. Okay, that's enough of that now, www.fourcornersproject.org, and let's get to the questions of the day. First question comes in from D.A. in Beit Shemesh, and she writes, when you first started, how did you write the first songs, and how did you put the band together back in the day? All right, so when I first started, I was the band for NCSY, National Conference of Synagogue Youth. We would go from region to region. So for instance, I started off in 1981 playing New York region NCSY. After that, I went to Richmond, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia for Virginia region NCSY. Then I went to Long Island. Actually, it might have been reversed. Then I went to Southern region, which was in Memphis, Florida, and we went to Central East. And anyway, in all these places, people would get up on chairs and they would try to keep kids interested in Judaism by doing song parodies. And that's where I got the idea, one of the ideas, to write song parodies. And how did these ideas come into my head? They just did. Well, that's not really such a straight answer, but they just did. They came into my head. Coattail in the Night. I remember writing, gotta go to the Coattail in the Night. Now, Bless On, it was a different story. That was Rabbi Joey Friedman. we were in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or in Philadelphia. I can't even remember, and that was where that song came. So each story each song has a story behind it. How did I put the band together? So we were three of us were living in the same apartment building in Kew Gardens, Queens. The Yona Lloyd, Gary Wallen, and myself. Danny Block joined the band last. Mark Skyer was part of Kesher, as well as Yona Lloyd. And then Mark Infield was in the industry. We were all in the industry around the same age, although I was the oldest, I believe. And then I just put everybody together because we each played a different instrument. And that was the start of Schlock Rock back in 1986. Okay, question number 3 comes from the Double B in Brooklyn, New York. And he writes, who are the Bros and how did they figure into the making of Schlock Rock? So the Bros were pre-Schlock Rock, pre-Kesher. It's very, very interesting. You know, how did I become the person that I became? Well, number one is I had great parents. I also had a great community. And part of the community, we had 10 friends, around 10, give or take. And we would, every Shabbat afternoon, we would have Seudah Shlishit. We'd have the third Shabbat meal. And it was there that we would sit around the table and we would write. We would make up Schlock Rock songs, which they weren't even Schlock Rock yet. So, for instance, Barbanel was written during that time, as was Eliyahu Hanavi. That all came from that era. And then we also did Gonna Lay Down My Sword and Shield Down. That eventually came out on Wood Schlock, right? So all these songs came out. The Bros, they were, you know, one of my closest friends, all of them, and they still are. And they all had good voices. We harmonized. Sometimes I gave them some harmony parts. Sometimes they just chirped in with their own. And eventually it became Schlock Rock. And that was the most unbelievable thing. So it was a combination of NCSY and then Gypsy, Jewish Public School Youth, and the Bros. But the Bros were really the first. Okay. Question number 4 comes from Marcia in Mountain Brook, Alabama. At least that's where she's from originally. And she writes, you have a lot of songs about Israel. Why? Do you want all Jews to move? Answer, yes. I would love all Jews to move to Israel. I'm here in Israel 24 years already. It's time for you guys to come. Now, I understand. You can't just come. You have things. You have parents. Some of you have elderly parents. Some of you have things that you have to do, and I understand that. But you got to make it part of your plan. You can't just say, Israel, it's not for me. No. It is for you. And I've written a million songs about it. And all I would say is, don't give up. Don't say it's not for me. Start learning about it. Start planning. Do some research. Do some homework. Don't come because Lenny says to come. You have to be able to make a living, which we'll get into in the next question. Okay, so that's my Israel story. I love Israel. It's the best place ever. Okay. Question number 5 comes from Big Nate in West Hempstead, and he writes, coronavirus has hit musicians and all entertainment and sports hard. When was the last time you performed in front of a live audience, and how are you managing to hold on? Excellent question. So, first question is, when did I perform last live in front of an audience? Answer, Purim. Purim was the last time I performed live. Now, Purim was in March. It was March, I think, 18th or 15th. So it's been 6 months, 5 months since I've had a live performance. So the next question is, how are you holding on? Meaning, how am I making a living? And the answer is God. God is the one who provides your income from Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, he decides how much money you're going to get. So, of course, it's difficult because I'm not exactly performing, but I have done over 50 Zoom concerts. I have written songs for people. They've called me up and said, we'll pay you, write a song for my husband's 40th birthday party or my mother's 80th birthday party. And then they give me information and we write. We, meaning I write. So things come in out of the blue, out of nowhere, all of a sudden. But you have to have faith in God, because the truth is, if you worry about it, it ain't going to help. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, if I would have had to have taken a day job, I would have taken a day job. You have to do what you have to do. That's called hishtadlut. It's called doing service to God. You have to do action. You can't sit on your chair, your proverbial chair, and do nothing. You have to work. You have to make it happen. But luckily, God has decided this is what you do, Lenny. You are a musician. You do music, and you do informal Jewish education. That's what you do. So you have to keep doing it. So I've been doing it, and God has been providing, and it's an amazing thing. Okay, we have time for one more question. We don't want to take too much of your time, and I think we're already at around 15 minutes or 12 minutes. This comes from JB in Teaneck, New Jersey. We know you grew up in a very musical family and musical environment. Name 3 of your influences in secular rock music, Jewish music, and parodies. Okay. Very good question, JB. Here we go. First thing is, I did grow up in a very musical family. My father was a cantor. I had chazanim, or cantors, going back generations on both sides, on my mother's side and my father's side. My grandmother even had somebody in her family that was called Shloime Chazan, and he would go from community to community. That was in Bessarabia, Romania. In my Zaidi, that's my father's father, he was a Chazan. My father was a Chazan. So, and I'm also for the, I also am a Chazan or a cantor for the High Holy Days, and I daven during the year, and I also lay in the Torah and all that stuff. So, what were my 3 influences in secular rock music? Billy Joel, the Beatles. I'm going to say all of 70s and 80s rock, but I could say Boston. I could say Squeeze. That's secular. Love pop music from the 70s and 80s. Next, Jewish music. What were my 3 influences? So I loved Ruach, the band Ruach. I loved the Asbury Yeshiva band, tremendous. And I also loved the albums. Let me see. I loved the Magama duo. They were great. Judea would probably be number 3. Great album. They only put out 1 album. Fantastic album. And I love that album, and it inspired me. Diaspora inspired me to make my own music and to go into Jewish music. And parodies. So parodies, Tom Lehrer, Weird Al Yankovic, and Alan Sherman. Those were my 3 parody artists that I really loved. I also loved Country Yossi and the Schniebelhoppers and Rechnitzer Rejects. They were on the Jewish side. Okay, that answers the question. I think you've enjoyed today's Q&A. Keep the questions rolling in. Email me, lenny@shlockrock.com, lenny@fourcornersproject.org, or Facebook message me, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. We're going to all these places through Restream.io. We're going to be back live on Thursday, back with hockey jerseys, back with baseball caps, back with sports trivia Thursday night, and next week we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the release of a Shabbat in Liverpool, and we're going to start on Kraz's birthday, and I'll tell you why. That's August 24th, next week. We're going to be talking about a Shabbat in Liverpool all of next week. Okay, you guys, hope you had a great show. We'll see you next week. Keep on Shlock.